We are losing fashion soul. The runways are faster, the faces are younger, and the artistry that once defined the industry? Almost gone. In the middle of all that noise, Shalom Harlow stood for something different. She wasn't just a model. She moved like art, felt like poetry, and reminded us that fashion could still make you feel something. But here's the strange part. No one talks about her. So I started digging, old interviews, grainy runway clips, even model earnings reports from the 90s. And what I found was shocking. Shalom wasn't just present during fashion's golden age, she was one of its top earners and most influential muses. She changed what modeling looked like. And then, she vanished. Why? No press meltdown, no scandal, just silence. Until one day, years later, she reappeared. And without a single PR stunt, she broke the internet. This isn't just a story about a comeback, it's a warning about what we lose when fashion trades emotion for algorithm. Before we forget her entirely, let's talk about Shalom Harlow. What made her legendary, and why there may never be another like her. It's a story so unique, you won't want to miss this. You know, some modeling careers begin with castings or runway dreams, but Shalom Harlow? Hers started at a Cure concert. Yeah, picture this. It's the early 90s. She's 17, wearing combat boots, probably eyeliner, lost in the music. She wasn't looking for fame. She was just a goth girl from Oshawa, Ontario, about 37 miles outside of Toronto. A scout spotted her in the crowd, and that moment, completely random, changed everything. What made Shalom so striking was that she didn't look like the models of the time. This was 1991. Think Cindy, Claudia, Naomi, supermodels with bold features, bronze skin, and big hair. Shalom was something else. She had this cool, icy elegance, almost alien-like in the best way. High cheekbones, pale skin, wide-set eyes. She looked like a painting come to life. But she also had this softness, this movement, that made her different. And part of that movement, it came from an unexpected place: ballet. Before modeling, Shalom trained as a dancer. Years of practice gave her a quiet command over her body. Graceful, fluid, instinctive. She didn't force poses, she eased into them. Even early in her career, there was something about the way she carried herself that made people pause. She moved with intention, without trying to impress. That subtle difference would come to define her in ways the fashion world hadn't seen before. By the time she was 20, she'd landed on the cover of Vogue multiple times and was earning upwards of $10,000 a day, something only the top tier of models could claim back then. She signed with Elite Model Management, one of the most powerful agencies in the world. In just a few years, she walked for Alexander McQueen, Chanel, Versace, Valentino, and Dior. By 1995, Forbes ranked her among the top-earning models globally. She wasn't just climbing, she was sprinting. But Shalom wasn't chasing fame the way others were. She was introspective, creative, and even a little shy. She once said she felt like an outsider in fashion, even while being one of its stars. That contradiction, visible yet elusive, is part of what made her unforgettable. And yet, even at her peak, she felt like she was just getting started. Because what came next would shake the foundations of fashion forever. Before we move on to the next section, please don't forget to subscribe if you liked the video so far. Shalom didn't just become a model, she became the model, practically overnight. After being scouted in 1991, she walked her first major runway in Paris just a year later. And within 2 seasons, she was everywhere. Versace, Dior, Chanel, Valentino. She wasn't even 21 when Vogue named her one of the top models of the decade. By 1993, she had walked for more than 15 major fashion houses in 1 season alone, something only the elite could pull off at that time. But it wasn't just her look that designers loved, it was her movement. Karl Lagerfeld once said that Shalom had the grace of a dancer and the aura of a queen. That's not an exaggeration. Her ballet training made her walk different, softer, and more fluid. She didn't stomp or strut, she glided. Every gesture had intention, even standing still. She looked like she was mid-performance. Alexander McQueen saw that. He didn't just cast her, he collaborated with her. They shared a kind of creative chemistry that went beyond clothes. He once said she brought emotion to the body, which is exactly what he needed in his shows, which were more like theater than fashion. She walked in some of his most daring collections in the late 90s, including the Unforgettable number 13 show in 1999. But even before that, she was his trusted muse. And then there was Amber Valletta. If you were into fashion in the 90s, you know this duo. Shalom and Amber were best friends, roommates, and runway icons together. They walked hand in hand in several shows, including for Versace and Chanel. She didn't overexpose herself. No drama, no tabloids, just art, just elegance. And soon, that elegance would collide with one of the boldest runway experiments fashion had ever seen. You know that phrase people throw around? A moment in fashion? Well, the McQueen spray paint dress wasn't a moment, it was the moment. It was spring-summer 1999. Alexander McQueen's collection was titled Number 13. And the last look was Shalom Harlow, alone on a circular platform, dressed in a simple white strapless dress. She stood still. The lights dimmed. Then suddenly, two robotic arms emerged like something out of a sci-fi film and began spray painting her live, on stage. Jet black paint, acidic neon. One shoulder splattered. Her waist cinched tighter as the machinery closed in. And Shalom, she didn't just stand there. She reacted. She twisted. She flinched. She spun. The robots weren't just coloring a dress. They were confronting her. And she turned that confrontation into choreography. This wasn't fashion. This was performance art. And it left the entire audience, seasoned editors, critics, fellow models, absolutely breathless. Fashion critic Sarah Mauer later called it the most powerful show finale ever staged. There was stunned silence at first. Some in the front rows were visibly emotional. Others stood and applauded, unsure if what they'd just witnessed was fashion, theater, or something in between. Backstage, McQueen was reportedly overwhelmed. He told his team it was the first time a model had brought one of his concepts to life in a way that surpassed his vision. But what made this moment unforgettable wasn't the tech. It was Shalom. Her body language wasn't robotic, it was human, emotional. She looked both terrified and defiant. Feminine, but fierce. Vulnerable, yet commanding. In those few minutes, she wasn't modeling the art. She became the art. Even now, 25 years later, that scene still sends chills. And it changed how the fashion world saw Shalom forever. But what the public didn't see was how much it took out of her, and what would soon push her away from it all. One day, she was everywhere, and then she wasn't. In the early 2000s, at what should have been the peak of her career, Shalom Harlow quietly stepped away. No scandal, no public announcement, just gone. For years, people assumed she was just done with modeling. Maybe she had moved into acting or decided to live a quiet life. But behind that silence was something much heavier. In a 2018 interview with Harper's Bazaar, Shalom revealed that she had been battling a combination of Lyme disease, chronic fatigue syndrome, and what she described as environmental illness. She said she became so sick she couldn't even function in day-to-day life. Her body had become hypersensitive to mold, synthetic fragrances, certain fabrics, and even basic household chemicals. She left New York. She stopped walking runways. She withdrew almost completely from public life and went to live in nature, near the forests of British Columbia. "I needed the quiet," she said. "I needed to heal." And then, after almost 15 years away from the spotlight, something incredible happened. She came back. And it wasn't quiet this time. It was loud, bold, and completely unforgettable. The world didn't expect her to come back. And honestly, most people didn't even realize how much they'd missed her until she reappeared and everything just stopped. It was September 2018, the Versace Spring-Summer 2019 show in Milan. The room was packed, the usual blur of new-gen models gliding down the catwalk. And then her, Shalom Harlow, 44 years old, radiant, fierce, walking like the queen she always was, but now with this unmistakable depth. A woman who had lived. She wore a gold-laced dress with a plunging neckline and floral appliques. Her body moved like it remembered every step but didn't need to prove anything anymore. She wasn't playing catch-up with trends. She was the moment. That walk set social media on fire, not because it was viral, but because it was real. The next few seasons, she didn't slow down. She walked for Dior's Cruise 2020 collection. She became the face of Banana Republic's Heritage campaign. But the show that truly felt like a homecoming? Iris Van Herpen. Spring 2023. If you saw it, you know. Shalom floated in a sculptural creation that looked like kinetic glass wings. The dress itself was composed of translucent layers of organza and laser-cut panels, designed to mimic the flow of water and light. It shimmered with movement, but it needed someone with total body control to make it come alive. And that's what Shalom brought. Stillness when needed, motion when it mattered. It was futuristic, yes. But the way she moved in it, gentle, deliberate, made the whole thing feel alive. Van Herpen even said that Shalom brought a soulfulness that elevated the collection beyond the conceptual. It wasn't just a model wearing a complex design. It was a collaboration between artist and canvas, echoing the kind of fashion storytelling that's become almost extinct in the TikTok era. And let's be real, in an era of 15-second TikTok fame and interchangeable faces, Shalom's return was a wake-up call. Fashion had become fast, too fast. Models were disposable. Trends didn't breathe, but here came this woman, nearly 30 years after her debut, reminding everyone what presence really looks like. She didn't return just to prove she could still do it. She returned to remind us what modeling used to be and what it can be again. Longevity, artistry, storytelling, that's Shalom, always has been. Right now, Shalom's building a legacy, not just as a model, but as a woman who's reshaping fashion on her own terms. Shalom Harlow was never just a pretty face, she was a presence, and honestly, that's why there will never be another like her. Most supermodels in the 90s had a brand. Naomi was power, Kate was cool, and Linda was elegance. But Shalom was emotion. She brought feeling to the runway. You didn't just see what she was wearing, you felt what she was saying through movement, even in silence. Designers didn't just cast her, they choreographed around her. But what really sets her apart is how she navigated the fame. Shalom never chased headlines. She didn't live in the tabloids, she lived in the work. While other models were turning into media empires, appearing on red carpets, launching fragrances, becoming household names, Shalom was often slipping out the side door back into the studio, onto a set, or into nature. She made herself rare, and in doing so, she made herself unforgettable. While others were the face of every fragrance and party circuit, Shalom was in the studio with McQueen, co-creating moments that still haunt fashion today. Even when she did major campaigns, like for Chanel, Dior, or Tiffany & Company, it was always on her terms. She kept her privacy, protected her spirit, and chose her moments with intention. So no, there won't be another Shalom Harlow. Not because no one is beautiful enough, but because so few are brave enough to move like she did. To vanish when the system got too loud. To return with a purpose. To say, I'm not just a model, I'm a collaborator, I'm a survivor, I'm still here. Do you think any model today even comes close to Shalom Harlow? Tell us in the comments. We read everyone. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe. We're just getting started, and we've got more stories coming your way that you won't want to miss. And if you enjoyed Shalom's unusual story, her rise, disappearance, and unforgettable return, then you'll want to keep exploring. Because the fashion world is full of wild stories, lost icons, and moments that changed everything. Click now to dive into the next video, one that future fashion legends couldn't stop watching. Thanks for being here, and see you in the next one.